If you've got access to chickens, you could be making a really fast compost, really nutritious, really quickly. Keep watching and I'll show you how. So chickens are one of the gardener's best friends. Not only do they provide loads and loads of fresh eggs, and they provide lots and lots of manure for you to use in your garden, there's a resource that the chickens are producing as a byproduct of their living environment that we can really take advantage of to make lots and lots of fresh compost for our gardens. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about just composted chicken manure. So what we've done is we've penned up the chickens. They're eating the grass on our lawn. They're making a bit of a mess here, that's fine. The grass will recover, the chickens are pooing and they're fertilising the lawn at the same time. We won't use the same patch of grass each time for this when we do this exercise. And we're doing this once every sort of 6 weeks or so.
I got some.
Thank you. So what I'm talking about is the floor space of the chicken run. Now, we can produce a lot of compost on here using the chickens to break down the materials really quickly. And I'll show you the amount of compost that we've managed to harvest. So we harvested this about 6 weeks ago. We managed to produce a ton bag full of compost. We finished that and now it's time for us to get some more compost out. And this is the compost, this is the level of compost that we're getting. So if you look at that, so it's some really fine quality stuff, and this is all from the floor of the chicken run. So we've gone through the floor of the chicken run and we've harvested all the compost that's on here. I'll show you what we're making this compost with. It's a combination of wood chips, all the dead matter from the garden, so all the weeds, all the waste matter from the gardens, that's coming in here. The chickens are eating what they're going to eat and then they're breaking up what's left. So things like dandelions, couch grass, all of that, the chickens will eat the roots, the chickens will eat the grass, and then they'll break up what's left in here. And because of their scratching and digging motions, there's nothing left of it. So we've taken everything from the floor of the chicken run and we've given it one sift through. So just on the first sift, this is the amount of compost that we've generated. So it's not looking bad at all. It's a bit dry, and that's because it's sheltered and it hasn't rained for a while. But we'll give it another sift. So this is all the excess material that's been through the cycle once. And as you can see, there's a lot of quite broken down stuff in there, as well as all the rough stuff. So what's going to be good is if we give this another cycle through. So the other advantage of sifting it through another time is all that waste will end up on this side, and very easily we can just rake it back through the door of the chicken run and back onto the floor and let it go through the cycle again. Everything's been sifted again for a second time and we've ended up with a pile on this side. Ended up with a 1 ton bag full of compost. So in a matter of 6 weeks we've managed to generate 1 ton bag full of compost. So you've got to admit this is a fast way of generating a lot of compost. And now what we're going to do with all this rough stuff is we're going to rake this back into the chicken run and we're going to top this up with a load of fresh material to start the composting process all over again. So that's all the rough stuff back in here now. It's the first layer of everything that we're going to add. And we're going to fill this up with, just like you'd make a compost pile. This is the patch that the chickens were on yesterday. And as you can see, they've eaten quite a bit of the grass. But that grass will recover. I mean, they've been pooing on here, so that's going to be good fertiliser and that grass will recover very quickly. We're going to move the chickens onto this patch today. Let them poo and scratch about on this bit and aerate the soil for me. What I've done is I've thrown down a little bit of compost on top so they can scratch that in for me as well. So we're just going to move them all in now and get the next lot of wood chips on top of there. So a load of fresh wood chips. So now we've got all the wood chips back in and you can see that it's almost a foot higher than it was. So you can see how high it is now, the floor level. My head's all touching the roof. And it's not just the wood chips that we're going to be throwing on here to break down. Things like these sods of grass, this is going to go in there. The chickens will tear that up. Any perennial weeds that we get, they can go in there. Trimmings from our plants, they can go in there. All of that. The chickens will just break that all down in here with their scratching actions, with their pecking actions. They'll break it all up. They'll eat what they eat from the leaves of stuff like dandelions and dock, and they'll tear up the roots and they'll break it all up and it won't be viable to grow again. all these grass clippings. We cut the lawn. There's loads of grass clippings, there's bits of wood and all sorts of stuff in here. That's all going into the run, and the chickens will break that down for us as well. So one of the things that we can't do in the UK is we can't allow chickens to have our kitchen scraps. If you're in the US, that's perfectly fine, but in the UK it's not legal for us to give kitchen scraps to chickens. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with peeling your vegetables before they get into your kitchen. Unless you're a vegan household, you can't use your kitchen scraps in here. So you can peel stuff outside. So if you pick some salads from the garden, take off the outside leaves, chuck them into the chicken pen, and they'll break it down. They'll eat what they eat, and they'll scratch everything else into the bedding. And in 6 weeks' time, we're going to be back here harvesting another ton bag full of compost. All of this chicken bedding I compost separately, and that makes a really high nitrogen feed for my plants. Or if it was the winter, I could use this bedding as a mulch, but right now I'll compost it separately, and I'll use it as a fertilizer rather than anything else. Last thing for us to do is put the chickens back into their home, and we'll just open the gates and throw some food in there, and they'll follow. They always do. When they see the food, they always go running. So that's how we make our chicken compost. If you like my chicken composting, I've got some videos on how to make hot composting piles. I'll put a link for it up here, so go and check that out. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you get the notifications for whenever I put a video like this out. I'll leave it there for this one, and I'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.